Hello, welcome back to CMC Gaming live stream, where we're going to be talking about some upcoming patch theory crafts I have. I've been messing around with this mercenary to gear up for the tactician that's coming in the Dawn of the Hunt. I'm really excited that not many people seem to be hype on this class. I'm very hype on this ascendancy. So I'm just going to kind of go through a little breakdown of what I'm thinking and what I've achieved so far, kind of putting it together. And then there's also going to be a link in this video description to my max roll guide for this. All tentative because they gave us patch note, but they did not give us all the information we needed to accurately theory craft build. So I'm going with what I know, and I want to get this build out there because I think it's going to be definitely my pet build for the season. So with all that said, let's jump into this. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. I'm just now starting to try to get the channel out there, so every little bit helps. Thank you. So, the big interaction for this build idea is Pillar of the Cage Gods, which did receive a substantial nerf going into the patch. Sorry if I sound a bit winded. I am walking on my treadmill at the moment. My new stand-up desk, really awesome. It did get a substantial nerf. It does about half the weapon damage scaling that it did before. It's currently 10% increased weapon damage per 5 strength. It is going to now be 10 per 10 strength, which is half as effective, which is a major bummer to this idea. However, I think it's still going to be enough to push this build idea over the top if and only if it interacts correctly with the skill I plan to use. So if you're not familiar, Maxwell's got a good little dive into the tactician. You can see its ascendancy tree, and on that ascendancy tree is a node that you'll want to take a look at, and make sure I know exactly what I'm talking about here. Bring that up. It is called Watch How I Do It. And what that says is allies in your presence gain additional attack damage equal to 25% of your main hand weapons damage. Well, this is one of the only items in the game that its weapon damage is low on the sheet, but scales dramatically, and from the calculations at present, it is scaling the base weapon damage. So it really just depends on how they code. Watch how I do it. And if it's coded how it would appear to be, then it's going to take this weapon damage, which is scaled substantially higher than this, and give 25% of that to your minions. So that won't, area of effect won't matter. That got, I think, area of effect and attack speed both got nerfed. I don't know that for sure. It doesn't matter for this build. The nerf that hit this build's idea is the weapon damage per strength, because we're going to be strength stacking. And we're going to stack as much strength as we can. And it's going to buff not only our weapon damage, so our skills hit harder, but it's going to buff our minions in our present and our friends that party with us, which I prefer party play, so that's also a really cool thing. I'm going to be substantially buffing them, and the minions right now, which summon Skeletal Warrior is axed from the game. You can only get it if you have a Spectre, which is interesting, but doesn't matter to me because this is going to be race Spectre or Spectre, whatever it is. I'm going to be a Pokemon master this season. I'm going to be looking at all the different enemies that I can, and pretty much you can use Race Spectre to capture a enemy monster that you've killed and put it in there, and then you can summon that minion, and hopefully these will all be very, very, very high attack speed minions, preferably with some kind of increased stun buildup built-in mechanic, preferably either ranged or something that can phase through doors, you know, because if you put minions before, the AI isn't great and they're going to get stuck. So either being ranged or phasing through doors would be really cool. Hopefully that's going to just get help in the patch anyway, and if it doesn't, then that's going to be unfortunate, but we'll still make it work. We'll probably just end up doing less minions, more powerful minions. But the other cool thing about this build is there is another node in the Tactician tree that is called Unleash Hell. Unleash Hell grants the skill Supporting Fire. And Supporting Fire reads, summon a hidden artillery squad trailing you, and you can fire a volley of arrows on command. The artillery squad counts as a minion. It has the minion tag, so that's awesome. Unfortunately, it doesn't get buffed by our pillar because it's technically not there. And that was clarified on a live stream by them, that no matter how big your presence rating, your Supporting Fire minions will not be in it. So, to compensate for that, I believe, is these minions get 1% increased damage per 3 of your strength and increased accuracy per 3 of your dex. We'll have a little dex just on accident, but that 3 of strength, 1% for 3 of strength, that's not bad. It's not as good as the pillar, which is basically a 1-to-1 and was a 2-to-1, but it is a way to have a skill that you can fire that's going to scale with the strength. This is not 100% in the build. It really depends on how much damage it does. If with our build it's doing good damage, it'll stay. If it's not doing good damage, we will simply rely on our Spectres and our damage, and we will take more defensive nodes in the tree, because I feel as though in this build, the defensive layer is going to be pretty important. That being said, the plan or how I have it set up right now on max roll is going to utilize a skill that I can't access at the moment. I don't think, well, maybe I can actually, I haven't checked. I don't believe so, but I don't actually know. Yeah, Blasphemy, I won't be able to get that to level 26. Blasphemy, if you're unfamiliar, turns curses into AoEs around you. Also nerfed, present, I think. But we're going to compensate for that by buffing that in every way we can on the tree. Sorry. And that will be our defensive layer. And it will not only be a defensive layer for us, but it'll be a defensive layer for our minion. So I'm hoping the combination of using a ring that I didn't grab on this build yet, because I don't believe I'm high enough level to use it, but the ring that gives you an additional curse, along with wrapping up here to get another additional curse. Hopefully these stack. If they don't, I will have to sacrifice either offense or defense. I know that we will be using temp chains. It slows everything down, including their action speed and movement speed. So it gives more time for your minions to shred them, gives you more time to position, and frankly, it makes the game play exactly how I thought it would play before we jumped into early access and everything was just off screen and then on your face immediately. Now it hits a wall and is just slowed down substantially, allowing you to actually fight and engage with combat in a meaningful manner instead of just going and getting the biggest load, the strongest build off of a guide and just blowing everything up. So you'll be able to engage with the content. You'll be able to, with this build specifically, the idea will be, you know, this is the well is the enemy. I'll be at range, really good range, knocking it back into my minions. As if it tries to charge past my minions, knocks back, gets it into the minions, but it also builds stun. Hopefully, we'll be able to fit the overwhelming presence into the build. I believe that shouldn't be a problem because blasphemy, overwhelming presence, all those things. The node that I had not mentioned yet in the the tactician tree is, let me read it. You get a travel node saying 8% increased spirit, and then persistent buffs have 50% less reservation, which is humongous. 50% less reservation. Hopefully we'll be able to have overwhelming presence, which will allow for us to stun. We'll get them primed for stun, hopefully in one of those, maybe two. Also, this just keeps things away from us. But if they are primed for stun, then we jump in with our staggering palm, stun them, and we will get projectiles. And depending on the situation, we can either use a really low gem Tempest Flurry for mana cost that you kind of move forward and you launch these projectiles, which will be affected by scatter shot and ricochet. So these projectiles will just bounce all over the map and just shred everything. I've done this build before. Unfortunately, I never got a guide uploaded for it, but this is probably one of my absolute favorite skills that was included in here. Downside is I had a method in this last patch where I was utilizing these skill effect duration reduction nodes here and here to get the timer on what is it? Not Grim Feast. The other one. Brainwork. Ghost Dance. And what Ghost Dance does is that 3.8 second duration between the Ghost Shrouds coming gets all the way down to 0.4 seconds. So unless the enemy is using something like stupid ignited ground or something that is not a hit and won't affect that, they have to attack more than 3 times a second in order to do anything to you. First time I fought the Pinnacle boss with that, my friend died, and it was my DPS at the time. I was just an Aura bot for him. He died, and I literally just stood there trying to have the boss kill me, and he could not. I stood there and stood there and stood there, and it did not matter. He just kept, basically, if he would ever get a hit on me, he would hit me again, and it would just heal my energy shield, and I would not die. So that was a really cool defensive layer. The other one with the strength stacking that I wanted to mess with was going to be Time of Need. If you're not familiar with Time of Need, I'm going to find it and throw it up here. This is not on the POB or the max roll guide, but is a definitely contender if I'm able to make this work the way I want to. It gives you a big chunk of life every 11 seconds, which gets really, really reduced by that. However, at the time, my build was with a Titan, and so my reduction was higher. So I don't know if this is going to be good enough. Probably my defensive layer will just be a lot of HP, and I'm dealing primarily physical damage, so my idea would be to just get some life leech on my glove and hopefully offset the damage I'm taking with a mixture of armor, evasion, and anything else I can do in there. If we do not end up taking the Unleash Hell off-screen minion, we will take a node that makes our evasion and armor way stronger, which would be a great defensive layer, so we'll see. Anyway, all that being said, the idea will be to jump in with Staggering Palm, and either use this move while you're moving back if the stuff is still going crazy on you, and it will shoot all the projectiles all around the screen for clear. Or if you're wanting to move forward, Tempest Rush, said that when you jump in and hit them with Staggering Palm, if there's too many enemies, like if you have to jump into, like, say a pack is there and you have to jump in on one and you've got a lot between you, then you'll have some kind of evasive maneuver on your weapon set too. I'm hoping this can be a spear skill. If not, this one is actually really good. Gives you a lot of distance and a lot of times freezes the enemies, which with the nerf to freeze probably won't work, but might, depending on your bow setup. I'm thinking a Widow Hail multiplying a bow with just a butt ton of things that help with freezing, hopefully would be able to do the trick. But I'm just more hopeful that I'll be able to get a spear skill that will work, and hopefully I can find some way. So if I go with the current setup, I will be able to use my 24 weapon set passives to run over here and grab Master Fletcher, which was nerfed this node, to boost the quiver. So I'll either do that and wrap around this way to get up to here, to get to this, or if I use the spear, I might be able to get some spear nodes to do the same thing. If neither one of those disengages work, however, I'm going to go this way because I do really want to pick up these. They are nerfed a little bit, but they increase your auras, so that'll add to your defensive layer. That will also add to your overwhelming presence, and your offensive layer, which I haven't mentioned yet, which is a curse that shreds their armor. That one I wasn't using in the last patch because when I was an Aurabot, I needed space for Magic Find, and then when I was an inverse Aurabot, I was actually using the 2 rings multiplied by Ingenuity that reduce your Magic Find to where I could get over 115% negative Magic Find so that I could farm just white base items, which was actually really cool. If you want a video guide on that or any kind of guide on that, let me know. I do not know if you'll be able to achieve that with anything other than the Ritualist using 3 of the rings, and even then, if my math serves me correctly, I think you'd have to use that and a perfectly rolled Ingenuity because you have to get to over 115 particularly. I think it's 115. It's somewhere above 100, above 110, I think even, where you're only getting white items. Now, you can still do a semi-less effective version of it by just getting it over 100, where your yellow mobs are going to drop blue items, and a lot of times that's okay because blue bases can still be used as crafting things. You'll be able to use greater essences on them, and with the buff, hopefully buff to rate of greater essences, this will become more applicable in this patch. But I do see a big market for the white bases, specifically if the Smith of Katava takes some gets popular, then you can get the white base armors and corrupt them yourself or sell them to somebody who wants to do mass corruptions. So all those things are awesome. Back to this build though, as far as what I've got on the max roll guide, I've got a couple skills, like I have the Skeletal Warrior in place of Spectre. I have the Skeletal Brute in place of the... I haven't mentioned this yet. I really want to integrate one, if not 2, if it's possible, of the Tame Beasts in there. And I'm hoping that the Tame Beasts can retain their auras, and that their auras can buff my Spectres and me. That's very hopeful. Doubt that that will work, but it would be oh so sweet if it could. If not, I'm just going to get a Tame Beast that just provides a good buffer between me and the enemy, and one that can maybe apply a stun buildup if I'm unable to Wind Blast appropriately for whatever reason. So that's kind of the gist of it. My proposed build right now is running the Pillar, obviously. If the interaction does not work the way I want it to work with Pillar scaling base damage multiplying by watch as I do it and giving it to enemies, then the alternate will be a Giant's Blood with a Scepter. So I'll use whatever the biggest two-hander I can get and a Scepter to boost my Spectres, and that either way, this Tactician, watch how I do it, is happening. I don't know 100% for sure if I'm going to go all in on the Curse, because it really does strain the tree, because you really want these nodes, and you really want these nodes, and you really want some nodes down here, these nodes, this node, some of these nodes. They're just everywhere, and that's really hard. And you also, as you can see, I have this anointed. There's a chance that if you're not pathing to this side of the tree, you will actually be able to get to here. I initially had my Maxwell guide going to this manually because this is a very expensive anoint. However, it's not necessary, but it doesn't say undead minions. That being said, we'll look at these boots that do a similar thing. Undead minions have 20% reduced evasion. Now, if the Spectres all just count as undead, great. That's not going to affect the tame beasts. Maybe you can tame a beast that is also undead. That would be even better. I'll be trying to roll the perfect 23%, depending on what my spirit looks like. We're going to want amulets. I didn't want to add any more affixes to this, even though I can, because I'm afraid it will jump it out of my level range, and I need this to be able to just have what I have here, to have all these minions this low level. This is a big component of this build, being able to get actually 122 spirit on this, and the intelligence providing no inherent bonus to maximum mana isn't that big of a deal for us. We're not going to have that big of intelligence. We ideally, if we can stack a crap ton of strength and still get 204 intelligence in order to run the max level of our auras, that would be awesome. If they release a gem that I've wanted for a long time, a support gem that allows you to convert some of the requirements to another stat, so I can revert some int to strength, that would be awesome. However, I am prepared just to use a low level of all my curses and rely heavily on my nodes, my jewel sockets, in order to boost them up. Speaking of jewel sockets, in the planner I have, I'm actually using the Secamus ring, the one that nobody knows exists, that actually allows you to put a jewel into a ring, and the stuff on that jewel will get multiplied by your belt if you're using the Ingenuity, which I can't equip right now and is too powerful now anyway, so I've just got a really big strength one. Ideally, it would be an Ingenuity with corrupted strength, or maybe energy shield or evasion. We'll see. This will end up probably not being these. It'll probably end up being some kind of stat stick. These I would love to have, but they do not have movement. When I said I was going to roll the 21% on, or 23% reservation, I forgot, looked at my POB, and I actually have the 5% increased movement corrupted onto them because I just don't want to be this slow. But if for some reason doing all this in my gear ends up to where I end up having enough all attributes getting multiplied here and here, whatever, if I end up having enough all attributes and having enough dexterity, it will boost my attack speed, and maybe my Tempest Flurry will propel me quicker. And then the other one that could work is there's also Bone Shatter with a mace if I don't get to use the pillar because it doesn't work. Bone Shatter with mace with high attack speed also makes you move forward faster. I can get rid of this downside of the spell by moving with a skill with fast attack speed. Don't know if that's going to work. I don't think I'll be able to get enough spirit with this being Queen of the Forest or whatever it's called, to stack evasion, to stack movement speed there. I don't believe that's going to work. So I believe that's where I'm at on this. Obviously, you're going to want max spirit on your helmet, and you're going to want this amulet to ideally have a spirit prefix and suffix, as much as you can get. And then if the Secondus ring doesn't pan out because you can't get a good enough jewel for it, you could use the Venter's Gamble. That also gives you a good roll of spirit. You'll have to be careful with that because it a lot of times gives you negative resistances, which the alternate of the helmet to this one, which I can't equip at my current level, the one on the I keep saying POB, the one on the max roll guide, which if this blows up, I will make a POB for this. For anybody who's interested, that'll be there eventually if this just goes as good as I hope it does. But on the max roll, the Alpha Tau helmet is on there. If you don't know what Alpha Tau is, it's a really cool but really rare helmet that adds 100 spirit in the helmet slot. You can corrupt it to have +1 minion skills, which is worth more than I would probably know what to do with in the current economy, so I don't have that. But getting like an extra socket because it has a lot of evasion could be good too. But one of the things I want to talk about that is it gives you 75% cold resistance, or like 50 to 75, something like that. I don't know if this was nerfed. I actually didn't look. I will need to do that. But that being said, you can get a Venter's Gamble that has a negative to cold resistance, and you're not going to have to worry as much about that negative to cold resistance on a Venter's Gamble if you have pretty much all of your cold resistance solved by your helmet. So hopefully you'll be able to get charm slots on the new Ingenuity belt, probably run a stun, freeze, and maybe even a rarity charm, depending on how many you're able to get. There is some shenanigans up here in the tree that I did on my build, took off, but is really, I'm leaving it on the max roll guide as an idea. I didn't notate on it, but if you've watched this video, you'll know I'll try to remember to throw a notation on there that it isn't required, but you can get a controlled metamorphosis gem right here that will allow you to take this node without these nodes. Because you do not need curse duration because you're applying your curses as an AoE, but you do want 10% increased effect of your curses, and not having to waste 1, 2, 3, 4, now 3 nodes to get here would be awesome. The other thing is if it's hitting this, it can also be wrapping to these nodes. The minions have fire, cold, and lightning resist, which being able to allocate those without all of the other ones isn't too terrible if your minions are dying. Hopefully we'll just be murking so fast they won't be dying. Hopefully I'm going to look into hopefully having the minions. I don't know if this will work or not. I'm doubting it will work, but if it does, it would be cool to be able to give the minions lifesteal of some site, not lifesteal, life leech of some kind. That would be awesome. If not, maybe just some life regeneration from some nodes I'll find. I'll update that as I go. It's the max roll is just a very preliminary build. It isn't match up with this, so don't ignore this. This was actually what I had before I started, when I was just leveling in order to get to this level. This level was only important to me because this level is where I can ascend. So hopefully at login, if somebody doesn't get information posted before I can, I'm going to try and get a guild member, or maybe one of you guys message me on here, or look me up on Facebook and message me there. I don't care. Somebody message me if you want to carry me through the Ascension so that I can get the Tactician on this character, on the Eternal Realm, as I'm going to refer to it, and be able to test the Pillar with Node. Watch as I do it. I want to see if that works, so I'm not pathing wrong, and I can make my journey as efficient as possible. Let's see. Let me look over at my thing, see if there's anything else I want to talk about. Yeah, I'm not going to be doing any playing with this build, because this isn't, like, I mean, a real build. It was really just put there to show you with some strength stacking at level 21. I've got almost 800 effective HP. I've got, you know, like, what is my strength? 170, so that'd be 170% increased damage to potentially 11 to 22 plus 2 to 52, and those might be fire and cold, but they also might be all lightning, because I believe if the damage calculation of your quote-unquote weapon damage is an average damage calculation, then lightning is going to just be superior. If it is not an average damage, and it's like taking the least of the damage, or if it's translating that damage, attack damage, into the elements that are actually on here, I'll probably go with all the elements in order to apply all the different buffs, debuffs that they can. But that being said, scaling that up with this, you know, I mean, if you're just looking at my quarterstaff, it's hitting for 1200. That's a lot more than, you know, 22 and 52. I know I have these nodes buffing it up, but it was still at like 900 before. So, I mean, that's as much as a giant in-game full physical damage mace. So I'm hoping that the interaction with Pillar and that work, and this build can come to full realization. Otherwise, I will update it as soon as I know, and I will work heavily on, I'm hoping, maybe spears if I can't use this. I really like some of the spears, the way they look, especially if one of the spear skills is essentially a Diablo 4 whirlwind attack. I wasn't a PoE 1 player, so I don't remember what that, cyclone or something. I love that. It's my favorite type of attack, and none of the whirlwindy type things in this one right for me. I do like the strafe one with a, forget what it's called, but where you're shooting the bow in a circle. That one's pretty neat, but it just doesn't fit. So my hope is that if this doesn't work, that I can use spears. And I'm hoping that I can also get whatever the largest damage spear is, and if that's a two-handed spear, which we don't know yet if we're getting 1 and 2. I know there's at least been data mined 1 spear that is held in 2 hands, and we don't know its damage for sure, but if it is substantially higher and I can use it with Giant's Blood, I will. I'm hoping that I can use Spear and Scepter. If I can't use Spear and Scepter with Giant's Blood or without, I will probably use Mace with a Scepter. And I believe I'll be able to use Giant's Blood, get a giant two-handed mace, and be able to do that. If it's average damage, there's actually a one-handed mace that scales lightning damage based on hitting with lightning. And it scales up to 500, but then can be corrupted even higher. That would actually be really, really strong at scaling, because at that point I won't be strength stacking, so I'll be able to do a lot more other things to boost the minion's damage. So there's a lot of factors, a lot of moving parts, but I just wanted to get these ideas in a video. I haven't been streaming much, and I really just wanted to get this out there, get people thinking. If you have any ideas, any feedback, anything, let me know. And all that being said, I think I'm going to get off here and work some more on theory crafting before I go pick up my son from school. So it was awesome having you guys. If anybody stopped by, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, any of that cool stuff. Like I said, this is going to be the first video I think I'm going to start sharing on my social media to share my my channel. I've just had it, you know, just sitting dormant, but with this new patch coming out, I think it's time. So anyway, I will catch you guys in the next one until I figure out what my sign-off slogan is. If you have any recommendations, hit them up in the comments. All right, I'll talk to y'all later.